Hey there, and welcome to True Scary Stories. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you're from and what time you're watching. That helps YouTube know you love creepy stories, and it'll keep sending more your way.
What's going on, everyone? Tonight, I've got 3 deeply unsettling stories from tribal police officers who worked the night shift near Shiprock, New Mexico. If you don't know, Shiprock is this massive, isolated rock formation that rises up from the desert floor in the Navajo Nation. It's sacred land, ancient, and according to locals, it's also a place where things that shouldn't exist do. The officers who shared these stories with me asked to remain anonymous, but they all worked for the Navajo Nation Police Department. And what they experienced out there, alone in the dark, on those long stretches of empty highway and remote dirt roads, well, let's just say it changed them. So turn off your lights, put in your headphones, and whatever you do, don't listen to this alone. Let's begin. The first story comes from an officer I'll call Officer Benali. He'd been with the tribal police for about 6 years when this happened, mostly working day shifts, but in the summer of 2019, he got moved to nights due to staffing shortages. His patrol area covered the back roads northwest of Shiprock, mostly empty desert, scattered hogans, and a few trailer homes miles apart from each other. It was his 3rd week on the night shift when he got the call. Around 2:47 a.m., dispatch radioed him about a possible domestic disturbance at a residence about 18 miles out on Route 13. The caller, a woman, had whispered that someone was trying to get into her house. Then the line went dead. Dispatch tried calling back, no answer. Officer Benali acknowledged the call and headed out. He remembers the night being unusually dark. No moon, just his headlights cutting through the black and the endless stretch of cracked asphalt ahead. The whole drive he kept trying to raise the woman on the radio, hoping dispatch could reconnect, but there was only static. When he finally turned on to the dirt road leading to the address, his GPS signal dropped. That wasn't uncommon out there. Cell towers were sparse and the terrain played hell with signals, but it made him uneasy. He slowed down, scanning the darkness with his spotlight, looking for the house, and then he saw it. A small, run-down prefab home with a sagging porch. One dim light flickered in a front window. His patrol car's headlights swept across the property as he pulled up, and that's when he noticed something strange. The front door was wide open. Officer Benali killed the engine but left his headlights on. He grabbed his flashlight, stepped out of the car, and immediately felt it, that heavy, oppressive silence you only get in the deep desert. No wind, no crickets, nothing, just silence. "Navajo Nation Police, I'm coming to the front door." No response. He approached slowly, one hand on his sidearm. The wooden steps creaked under his boots as he climbed onto the porch. He shone his flashlight inside. The interior was a mess, furniture overturned, picture frames shattered on the floor, a kitchen chair on its side. "Police, is anyone home?" Still nothing. He stepped inside, his flashlight beam sweeping across the small living room. The air inside was cold, not just cold, like someone had left a freezer door open. His breath misted in front of him, in July. That's when he heard it. A low, rhythmic thumping sound coming from the back of the house. Slow, deliberate. Thump, thump, thump. Officer Benali moved toward the sound, his hand now firmly on his gun. He passed through a narrow hallway, his flashlight flickering for just a second, just long enough to make his heart skip, but it came back on. The thumping was louder now, coming from behind a closed door at the end of the hall. He reached for the door handle. It was ice cold to the touch. "I'm opening this door. If you're in there, make yourself known." The thumping stopped. Complete silence. He turned the handle and pushed the door open. The room was empty, just a small bedroom with a single mattress on the floor, no blankets, no furniture, but the window was open, curtains billowing in a breeze he hadn't felt anywhere else in the house, and on the wall, directly above the mattress, someone had scratched something into the drywall. 4 words, carved deep. "Don't let it in." Officer Benali felt the temperature drop even further. His flashlight flickered again, and in that brief moment of darkness, he heard something. A breath. Right behind him. He spun around, his flashlight and gun up, but the hallway was empty. His heart pounded in his chest. Every instinct told him to get out. But he was a cop. He had a job to do. He needed to clear the rest of the house. He moved quickly now, checking the bathroom, a tiny closet, the kitchen. Nothing, no one. But as he stepped back into the living room, he noticed something he'd missed before. Muddy footprints, leading from the open front door across the living room floor and stopping in the center of the room. Just stopping, like whatever made them had simply vanished. And they weren't human footprints. They were too long, too narrow. The toes, if you could call them that, were elongated, almost claw-like, and there were only 4 of them on each foot. Officer Benali backed toward the door, his eyes locked on those prints. He was halfway across the porch when his radio crackled to life, making him jump. "Unit 34, this is dispatch. What's your status?" He grabbed the radio, his hand shaking. "Dispatch, this is Unit 34. Residence appears abandoned. Signs of forced entry and possible struggle, but no occupants. I'm going to—" He stopped.
Because standing at the edge of his headlight's reach, just beyond his patrol car, was a figure. Tall. Too tall. At least 7 feet, maybe more. It was humanoid in shape, but wrong. Its proportions were all off. Arms too long, legs too thin, head tilted at an unnatural angle. And its skin, what little he could see of it in the harsh glow of the headlights, looked gray, ashen. It just stood there, watching him. Officer Benali's throat went dry. "Dispatch," he said quietly into the radio, not taking his eyes off the thing. "I need backup at my location. Possible... I don't know what this is. There's something outside the residence." "Unit 34, repeat? You're breaking up." The figure took a step forward, then another. It moved wrong, not walking exactly, more like gliding, its feet barely touching the ground. And as it came closer, Officer Benali could see its face, or where its face should have been. It was smooth, featureless, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just blank gray skin stretched over bone. "Get back!" Officer Benali shouted, drawing his weapon. "Stop right there!" It didn't stop. He fired a warning shot into the air. The sound echoed across the desert, impossibly loud in the dead silence. The thing stopped, tilted its head like it was curious, and then it smiled. Not with a mouth. It didn't grow a mouth, but Officer Benali felt it smiling. He could feel the malevolence radiating off it, cold and hungry. And then it spoke. Not out loud, in his head. A voice like grinding metal and breaking glass, forming words he didn't want to understand. "She let me in." Officer Benali didn't remember getting into his car, didn't remember starting the engine or peeling out of that dirt driveway, rocks spraying behind him. He just drove, foot slammed on the gas, radio in his hand, screaming for backup, for anyone. When he finally got back to the main highway, his signal returned. Dispatch was frantic. They'd lost contact with him for over 20 minutes. He told them everything, described what he saw, and requested they send a unit back to that location immediately. 2 officers arrived at the house 40 minutes later. The front door was closed and locked. No signs of forced entry, no overturned furniture, no muddy footprints, and no scratched message on the bedroom wall. The house, was clean, empty, like no one had lived there in years. Dispatch checked the records. The 911 call that came in, there was no record of it. No call, no caller ID, nothing. But Officer Benally knows what he saw. He knows what he heard, and he refuses to work that patrol sector anymore. Because sometimes, late at night, when he's lying in bed, he still hears that voice in his head. She let me in. And he wonders who she was and what else she might have let in. That first story still gives me chills. The idea that something could just erase itself from evidence like it was never there. But the truth is, in places like Shiprock, the land itself remembers things. Old things, things that don't follow our rules. This next story takes place about a year later, in the fall of 2020, and it involves an officer I'll call Officer Tsiltsi.
Story 2. Officer Sosi was a veteran, 15 years with the Navajo Nation Police. She'd seen a lot in her career: domestics, drug busts, accidents on those dark highways where drunk drivers wrapped themselves around telephone poles. But she was practical, level-headed. She didn't believe in ghost stories. Until Route 491. It was early October, around 11:30 p.m., when she got a call about an abandoned vehicle on Route 491, just south of the Shiprock Junction. The caller reported seeing a pickup truck pulled off on the shoulder with its hazards on, but no one around it. Dispatch asked her to check it out. Route 491 has a history. Locals used to call it Highway 666 before they renamed it, and there were always stories, disappearances, strange accidents, sightings of things that couldn't be explained. Officer Sosi figured it was just superstition, bad road conditions, and drunk drivers. That's all. She pulled up behind the truck, an old Ford F-150 covered in dust, New Mexico plates. The hazards were still blinking, rhythmic and almost hypnotic in the darkness. She ran the plates, came back registered to a guy named Raymond Begay, age 53, address in Shiprock. She stepped out of her patrol car, flashlight in hand. "Mr. Begay? Navajo Police?" No answer. The driver's side door was unlocked. She opened it and peered inside. Keys still in the ignition. A half-empty bottle of water in the cup holder, a Navajo Nation gas station receipt dated that same day. The radio was on, tuned to a local station, but all that came through was static. No signs of struggle, no blood, just empty. Officer Sosi checked the truck bed. Nothing but a spare tire and some tools. She walked around the vehicle, her flashlight sweeping the ground. That's when she noticed the footprints, boot prints, leading from the driver's side door, across the gravel shoulder, and into the desert. Just walking straight out into the darkness, away from the road. She grabbed her radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 19. Vehicle is abandoned, keys inside. I've got tracks leading into the desert, requesting a search unit." "Copy that, Unit 19. Nearest unit is about 40 minutes out. Do you want to wait for backup?" Officer Sosi looked out at the dark expanse of desert. She could still see the footprints in her flashlight beam, clear as day, fresh. If Raymond Begay was out there, maybe injured or disoriented, 40 minutes could be too long. "Negative, Dispatch. I'm going to follow the tracks. Keep this channel open." She set out into the desert, following the footprints. They were evenly spaced, deliberate, not the erratic steps of someone drunk or in distress, just walking. The further she got from the road, the quieter it became, that oppressive silence again, like the world was holding its breath. Her flashlight beam cut through the dark, illuminating sagebrush and rocks, but not much else. She'd been walking for maybe 10 minutes when the footprints just stopped. Not faded, not obscured by wind or terrain, just stopped, like Raymond Begay had taken one last step and then ceased to exist. Officer Sosi crouched down, examining the ground. The last print was clear, deep in the dirt, but beyond it, nothing. She swept her flashlight in a wide arc, empty desert in every direction. "Dispatch, the tracks end here. No sign of the driver. I'm going to—" She stopped, because in the beam of her flashlight, about 30 yards ahead, she saw something. A shape, standing perfectly still. "Mr. Begay?" she called out. The shape didn't move. Officer Sosi approached slowly, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. As she got closer, she could make out more details. It was a person, or at least it looked like a person, standing with their back to her, facing away into the desert. "Sir, this is the police. Are you Raymond Begay?" No response. She was about 15 feet away now, close enough to see that whoever it was, they were wearing jeans and a dark jacket. Their arms hung limp at their sides. "Sir, I need you to turn around." Nothing. The figure's head snapped to the side, not turning its body, just its head, rotating a full 180 degrees to look directly at her. Officer Sosi's blood turned to ice. It wasn't Raymond Begay. It wasn't anyone. The face staring at her was pale, almost luminescent in the flashlight beam, and its eyes, they were black, completely black. No whites, no irises, just endless, empty black. And it was smiling, a too wide smile that split its face from ear to ear. Officer Sosi stumbled backward, her flashlight shaking in her hand. The thing took a step toward her, then another. Its body was still facing away, but its head remained locked on her, that horrible smile never wavering. She drew her weapon. "Stay back!" It giggled, a high-pitched, childlike giggle that didn't match the adult body. And then it spoke, in a voice that sounded like multiple people talking at once. "He walked to us. They all walk to us." Officer Sosi didn't wait. She turned and ran. She ran faster than she'd ever run in her life, her flashlight bouncing wildly, her boots pounding against the hard desert ground. Behind her, she could hear it. Footsteps, fast, too fast, and that giggling getting closer. She didn't look back. She just ran, her lungs burning, her heart hammering in her chest. The road seemed impossibly far away, like she'd walked miles instead of minutes. And then she saw the lights, her patrol car, the blinking hazards of the truck. She burst out of the desert and onto the shoulder, nearly collapsing against her car. She spun around, weapon raised, flashlight searching the darkness. Nothing. The desert was empty, silent. But in the dirt, right at the edge where the gravel met the sand, there were footprints, dozens of them, all leading from the desert to the road, all different sizes, men, women, children, all stopping at the exact same spot, right where Raymond Begay's truck was parked. Officer Sosi got in her car, locked the doors, and radioed for backup. She didn't leave her vehicle. She just sat there staring at those footprints until 2 other units arrived. They searched the area, found nothing. No Raymond Begay, no creature with a twisted head and black eyes, just an abandoned truck and a traumatized officer. Raymond Begay was never found. He's still listed as a missing person. His truck was impounded, and his family buried an empty casket 6 months later. But Officer Sosi knows what happened to him. She knows where he went. And sometimes, late at night when she's driving that stretch of highway, she sees them, figures standing just beyond the reach of her headlights, perfectly still, watching the road, waiting for someone else to stop, waiting for someone else to walk to them. 2 stories down, one more to go, and honestly, this last one might be the most disturbing of all, because sometimes the scariest things aren't monsters or ghosts. Sometimes they're the things that happen inside your own patrol car, the things that make you question reality itself. This final story comes from an officer I'll call Officer Yellowhorse, and what happened to him in the winter of 2021, well, you'll see.
Story 3. Officer Yellowhorse was young, 26 years old, fresh out of the academy, and he'd requested to be stationed near Shiprock because it was close to his family's land. His grandmother still lived out there in a traditional hogan about 12 miles from the main highway. He'd been on the force for about 8 months when he got assigned to a night shift covering the eastern sector, the area that bordered the actual Shiprock formation. It was late December, just after Christmas, and the temperature had dropped to below freezing. The shift started out quiet. A few routine traffic stops, one welfare check on an elderly couple who'd lost power, nothing unusual. But around 1:15 a.m., he got a call that made his stomach drop. Dispatch, Unit 27, we have a report of a child walking alone on Highway 64, eastbound, near mile marker 38. Caller states the child appears to be barefoot and not wearing a coat. Can you respond? A child, alone, in the middle of the night, in freezing temperatures. Officer Yellowhorse was about 15 minutes away. He flipped on his lights and siren and floored it, his mind racing. What kind of parents let a child wander out on a highway at night? Was this an abduction? A runaway? He reached mile marker 38 in 12 minutes, his eyes scanning the roadside. And then he saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, walking along the shoulder of the highway. She was wearing a thin white dress, no coat, no shoes. Her long black hair hung loose around her shoulders, and she was just walking, slowly, like she had all the time in the world. Officer Yellowhorse pulled up beside her and rolled down his window. "Hey there, sweetheart. Are you okay?" The girl didn't stop walking, didn't even look at him. He put the car in park and got out. "Honey, it's freezing out here. Where are your parents?" She kept walking. He jogged up beside her. "Hey, I'm a police officer. I'm here to help. Can you tell me your name?" Finally, she stopped. She turned to face him, and Officer Yellowhorse felt his breath catch. Her eyes were dark, normal, not like the thing Officer Sosi had described, but there was something wrong. She looked wrong. Her skin was too pale, almost gray, and her lips had a bluish tint like she was hypothermic. "What's your name?" he asked, gently, crouching down to her level. The girl stared at him for a long moment. Then, in a small, flat voice, she said, "Emily." "Okay, Emily. Where do you live? Where are your parents?" She pointed down the highway into the darkness. "Home." "Can you show me where home is?" She nodded. Officer Yellowhorse guided her to his patrol car and opened the back door. "Come on, let's get you inside where it's warm. We'll find your family." Emily climbed into the back seat without a word. Officer Yellowhorse grabbed an emergency blanket from his trunk and wrapped it around her shoulders. She didn't react, didn't shiver, didn't thank him, just stared straight ahead. He got back in the driver's seat and looked at her in the rearview mirror. "Which way, Emily?" She pointed down the highway. "That way." He started driving, the heater cranked up to full blast. How far is home? Not far. They drove in silence for a few minutes.
Officer Yellowhorse kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror. She hadn't moved, hadn't blinked, just sat there, wrapped in that silver emergency blanket, staring straight ahead. "Emily, are you hurt? Are you okay?" "I'm okay." Her voice was so flat, so emotionless, it was unnerving. "Can you tell me how you ended up out here? Did you run away?" "I was walking." "Walking where?" "Home." This was going nowhere. Officer Yellowhorse decided to try a different approach. "Emily, do you know your parents' names or your phone number?" For the first time, she looked at him, made eye contact in the rearview mirror. "My mommy's name is Catherine." What's your last name, honey?" "Whitehorse." Officer Yellowhorse grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 27. I've picked up the child. Says her name is Emily Whitehorse. Mother's name is Catherine. Can you run that and see if there are any missing persons reports?" "Copy, Unit 27. Stand by." He kept driving. Emily told him to turn left onto a dirt road, unmarked, barely visible in the darkness. The road was rough, full of potholes, and his patrol car bounced and jolted over the uneven terrain. "How much further, Emily?" "Close." The heater was working overtime, but Officer Yellowhorse noticed something strange. The back of the patrol car, where Emily was sitting, it wasn't getting warmer. If anything, it felt colder. He could see his breath misting in the rearview mirror. "Emily, are you warm enough?" She didn't answer. He glanced back at her. She was still staring straight ahead, that emergency blanket wrapped around her thin shoulders. And then he noticed something that made his blood run cold. Her lips weren't moving, but he could hear breathing. Slow, raspy breathing coming from the back seat. But Emily wasn't breathing. Her chest wasn't rising and falling. She wasn't exhaling mist into the cold air like he was. She was just still. "Emily?" He turned his head to look at him again, and this time when she spoke, her voice was different, deeper, older. "We're almost there." Officer Yellowhorse's hands tightened on the steering wheel. His radio crackled. "Unit 27, this is dispatch. We have no records of an Emily Whitehorse or a Catherine Whitehorse in the system. We also checked missing persons for the last 5 years. Nothing matches." His throat went dry. "Copy that, dispatch." He looked in the rearview mirror again. Emily was smiling now, a slow, spreading smile that showed too many teeth. "Stop the car," she said. "Emily, Stop the car." Her voice boomed through the small space, impossibly loud, and Officer Yellowhorse slammed on the brakes. The patrol car skidded to a stop in the middle of the dirt road. Silence. He sat there, hands shaking, staring at the girl in the back seat. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was just watching him, waiting. "Emily, I'm going to call for backup, okay? We're going to figure this out." "Look," she interrupted, pointing out the window. Against every instinct screaming at him not to look, Officer Yellowhorse looked. There, about 50 yards off the road, was a hogan, traditional, circular, made of logs and mud. But something was wrong with it. The door was hanging open, and even from this distance he could see it was old, abandoned. The roof had partially collapsed. "Is that your home?" "Yes." "Emily, no one lives there. That building is—" "Get out." "What?" "Get out of the car. Come inside." Officer Yellowhorse felt panic rising in his chest. "Emily, I can't." She leaned forward, her face suddenly close to the metal grate that separated the front and back seats, and in a voice that didn't sound human at all, she whispered, "We've been waiting for you." Officer Yellowhorse didn't think. He threw the car in reverse and hit the gas. The patrol car lurched backwards, tires spinning in the dirt. Emily, or whatever she was, started screaming. not a child's scream, an ear-splitting, inhuman shriek that made the windows rattle and the radio spark with static. He spun the car around and floored it back towards the highway, that screaming echoing in his ears, drilling into his skull. He didn't look back. He didn't check the rearview mirror. He just drove. When he finally reached the highway, the screaming stopped. The back seat was empty. The emergency blanket was folded neatly where Emily had been sitting, and on the inside of the back window, written in condensation with 3 words, "Thank you for stopping." Officer Yellowhorse radioed for backup and waited on the side of the highway until 2 other units arrived. They searched the area, found the dirt road, found the abandoned Hogan. Inside the Hogan, they found something that made Officer Yellowhorse's blood run cold. A makeshift grave, old, maybe 20, 30 years old, and in that grave they found the remains of a little girl. A forensics team was called in. Dental records eventually identified her. Emily Whitehorse, age 7, reported missing in 1997, last seen walking on Highway 64. She'd been missing 24 years. The case went cold decades ago. No suspects, no witnesses, just a little girl who vanished one winter night and was never seen again. Until now. Officer Yellowhorse requested a transfer 2 weeks later. He couldn't drive that highway anymore, couldn't patrol those roads, because every time he got in his patrol car, every time he looked in that
There, about 50 yards off the road, was a Hogan. Traditional, circular, made of logs and mud. But something was wrong with it. The door was hanging open, and even from this distance he could see it was old, abandoned. The roof had partially collapsed. "Is that your home?" he asked. "Yes." "Emily, no one lives there. That building is—" "Get out!" "What?" "Get out of the car. Come inside." Officer Yellowhorse felt panic rising in his chest. "Emily, I can't." She leaned forward, her face suddenly close to the metal grate that separated the front and back seats, and in a voice that didn't sound human at all, she whispered, "We've been waiting for you." Officer Yellowhorse didn't think. He threw the car into reverse and hit the gas. The patrol car lurched backward, tires spinning in the dirt. Emily, or whatever she was, started screaming, not a child's scream, an ear-splitting, inhuman shriek that made the windows rattle and the radio spark with static. He spun the car around and floored it back toward the main highway, that screaming echoing in his ears, drilling into his skull. He didn't look back. He didn't check the rearview mirror. He just drove. When he finally reached the highway, the screaming stopped. The back seat was empty. The emergency blanket was folded neatly where Emily had been sitting, and on the inside of the back window, written in condensation, were 3 words. "Thank you for stopping." Officer Yellowhorse radioed for backup and waited on the side of the highway until 2 other units arrived. They searched the area, found the dirt road, found the abandoned Hogan. Inside the Hogan, they found something that made Officer Yellowhorse's blood run cold. A makeshift grave, old, maybe 20, 30 years old. And in that grave, they found the remains of a little girl. A forensics team was called in. Dental records eventually identified her. Emily Whitehorse, age 7, reported missing in 1997, last seen walking along Highway 64. She'd been missing for 24 years. The case had gone cold decades ago. No suspects, no witnesses. Just a little girl who vanished one winter night and was never seen again. Until now. Officer Yellowhorse requested a transfer 2 weeks later. He couldn't drive that highway anymore, couldn't patrol those roads, because every time he got in his patrol car,
every time he looked in that rearview mirror, he felt like someone was sitting in the back seat, watching him, waiting. And sometimes, late at night, when he's lying in bed trying to sleep, he hears it, a small, flat voice echoing in his mind. "We've been waiting for you." So there you have it. 3 stories from tribal police officers near Shiprock, New Mexico. 3 encounters with things that shouldn't exist. Things that blur the line between the living and the dead, between our world and something else. Officer Benali still won't talk about what he saw that night. Officer Tsosi transferred to a different sector and refuses to drive Loot 491 after dark, and Officer Yellowhorse left the force entirely. Last I heard, he moved out of state. The thing about places like Shiprock is that they're old. The land has memory, and sometimes that memory bleeds through into our world. The question is, are these encounters real, or are they just the results of exhaustion, isolation, and the human mind playing tricks in the dark? I don't know, but those 3 officers believed what they experienced. And honestly, after hearing their stories, I'm not sure I'd want to patrol those roads either. Thanks for listening. If you have your own scary story to share, leave it in the comments. And as always, stay safe out there, especially at night.